I'm Lou Harper. I was librarian and archivist for the Memorial Art Gallery from 1990 to September of 2018. And I'm going to answer some questions about the Memorial Art Gallery.
Great. Okay, so how did the Memorial Art Gallery come to be what it is today?
So it's important to realize that the gallery is more than 100 years old. And it really started out of a number of factors, one of which was a desire on the part of artists in Rochester and the local community to have its own art museum. There were art museums in both Buffalo and Syracuse before the one in Rochester. And when MAG was given to the university, it was really in trust for the entire community and meant to be a community art museum. So we have had sort of steady, slow growth over more than 100 years. There's been a real dedication to art and to the community. One of the ways you see that especially is that as early as 1914, so the first year, we were hosting classes for school children. So that sort of connection with education and with a sense of lifelong learning has been part of the gallery throughout. I think there were also early on, as early as 1920, there were there was a strong connection to connecting with local ethnic groups, and that was a long part of the gallery's history as well. There was an exhibition in 1920 called the Homelands Exhibition, which, although it didn't take place at the Memorial Art Gallery due to size, it was a 10-day festival of celebrating ethnic homelands. At a time, it's sort of a telling thing for our history today when we look at immigration, but at the time, this was right after World War I, and there were Red Scares, so fears of communism, and that was connected to fears of immigrant communities. And so Rochester was the second of several cities to hold these festivals, and there were hundreds of thousands of people who attended over the course of 10 days. And MAG's director at the time, George Hurdle, created a series of art exhibitions with furnishings and artwork of local immigrant peoples, and it was just hugely successful. So that's been a thread also.
Yeah, I know that you've touched on this a little bit, but how does the MAG help contribute to Rochester's community?
Well, I think part of it is really that we're a venue for lifelong learning around art. We have an art school called the Creative Workshop, which you can trace back, not necessarily under that name, but you can trace back to till about 1926, although really we started giving stories to school children by 1919 or so. So having a location for art classes has been, and for students of all ages, has been part of the Art Museum's connection to the community for a very long time. And also through other learning events like lectures and our exhibitions, of course. I think, and things like celebratory family days that connect to different ethnic groups like Pacific Americans or Asian Americans, African Americans, the like. All of that is part of connecting to the community as well.
Wow. What does the MAG represent to you personally?
It has been really a place of great collegiality. It's always been a small staff, and historically, I think MAG's staff has always sort of made the most with as little funding as possible, in a sense, because we've never had the luxury of having large funding. So our small staff tend to work together very well, and we've all had opportunities to grow by wearing many different hats and sort of exploring what needs to be done into being, as it were. I certainly had that experience in a variety of ways over the course of my years.
Mm-hmm. What is the biggest takeaway someone has when they visit the gallery?
I would say one would be a sense of welcome. One of my colleagues who is often at the admissions desk has often been awarded by the Greater Rochester Visitor Association for her welcoming presence, for example. Mm-hmm. So that for certain, and also the breadth of our collection. We've been known for many years as having, for a small museum, one of the most well-balanced collections. We speak about our collection as being 5,000 years of world art, and really that's true. And that's partly also because of our connection to the university. We wanted to be able to represent world art to college students who were learning about art history. One thing I didn't speak of earlier, which would not necessarily be immediately obvious, is just the impact of our volunteers. We have one of the highest per capita volunteer groups in the country for museums, and so that is impacted by the tours we give to people when they come to the gallery, to people who help out in the gallery store, things like that. And then the last thing I would say is that most days of the week, if you come to visit the gallery, you'll likely see us giving tours to school groups. And so that's another piece of who we are that would be evident when you come to visit. And just, a gracious place to have a meal and share art and good food and conversation as well.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, and I really appreciate you taking your time out of your schedule to meet with me. I'm happy that I got to speak to you and preserve everything that you've done for the Memorial Art Gallery, and
thank you.
Yeah, it's really amazing.